First contact in the void. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the International Deep Space Research Station, her eyes fixed on the peculiar readings from Sector 7. For the third time this week, their quantum sensors had detected something impossible, a complete absence of quantum fluctuations in a region of space that should be teeming with subatomic activity. Dr. Patel, are you seeing this? Elena called out to the station's lead physicist, who was already rushing toward her console, tablet in hand. It's expanding, Raj Patel confirmed, his usually calm demeanor showing cracks of concern. The dead zone has grown by another 12 light-years since yesterday. This isn't a natural phenomenon. It's spreading too uniformly, too purposefully. The observation deck's holographic display painted a chilling picture. A sphere of absolute quantum stillness was steadily expanding through space, engulfing star systems in its wake. Traditional telescopes showed nothing unusual, but at the quantum level, it was as if someone, or something, was systematically erasing the fundamental fabric of the universe. Their contemplation was interrupted by an alert from the communications array. "Captain, we're picking up a signal," Lieutenant Sarah Chen reported, her fingers dancing across the interface. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. The pattern suggests artificial origin, but it's using quantum entanglement as a carrier wave. That's theoretically impossible with our current understanding of physics." Before Elena could respond, the signal resolved itself into a three-dimensional projection in the center of the deck. A figure materialized, humanoid but clearly alien, with crystalline growths protruding from its silvery skin and multiple sets of eyes arranged in a spiral pattern across its face. "People of Earth," the being spoke, its words somehow perfectly translated into English. "I am Ambassador Exile of the Nexus Collective. We come seeking refuge and bearing a warning. The entity you have detected, the quantum void, is only the beginning. What follows is far worse." Elena stepped forward, years of diplomatic training kicking in. "I am Captain Rodriguez of the International Deep Space Research Station. We're tracking an expanding zone of quantum nullification. Are you saying you know what's causing this?" The ambassador's crystalline protrusions pulsed with soft light. "We called them the entropy tide when we first encountered them. A civilization so advanced they evolved beyond the constraints of matter itself, existing as patterns in quantum foam. They consume quantum potential itself, breaking down the fundamental forces that bind reality together. Their hunger is endless, and they have already devoured 12 galaxies. Why come to us?" Raj interjected. "Surely there are more advanced civilizations that could help." A sound like crystalline wind chimes emanated from the ambassador. What Elena realized must be laughter, though it held no humor. Advanced technology is worse than useless against the tide. They corrupt and consume any system that relies on quantum mechanics. The more sophisticated the technology, the more quickly it falls. That is why we came to Earth. Your civilization is unique. You still maintain analog systems, mechanical computers, chemical propulsion. You understand fundamental engineering in a way most species have forgotten in their rush to embrace quantum technology. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she understood the implications. "You're saying our primitive technology might be our best defense." "Precisely. The tide cannot easily interact with purely mechanical systems. They are too crude for their refined existence. We bring you our knowledge, our refugees, and a desperate hope. Perhaps together, we can find a way to fight back using methods so ancient that they become revolutionary." Before Elena could respond, new alerts blared across the station. Lieutenant Chen's face went pale as she read the incoming data. "Captain, the quantum dead zone. It's accelerating. Multiple approach vectors detected. They'll reach our solar system in less than 6 months." Ambassador Exile's crystalline features shifted in what might have been an expression of grim determination. "Then we have no time to waste. Humanity must prepare for war, but not with the weapons you know. You must look to your past to save your future. The age of quantum technology is ending." The age of gears and steam must rise again. Elena turned to her crew, her mind already racing with possibilities. Humanity had always prided itself on its advanced technology, its quantum computers and fusion drives. But now, their salvation might lie in the outdated technologies that they had never fully abandoned. "Contact Earth Command," she ordered. Tell them we need every mechanical engineer, every craftsman, everyone who understands how to build machines without relying on quantum effects, and get me the curators of every technical museum on Earth. We're about to make history dust off its gears and come back to life." As the crew scrambled to relay her orders, Elena watched the holographic display of the approaching void. Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. But perhaps that was exactly why they might be the ones to finally stop it. Sometimes, the best way to fight the future was with the past. In the coming days, as Earth prepared for the greatest engineering challenge in human history, Elena couldn't help but smile at the irony. All across the planet, ancient steam engines were being pulled from museums, mechanical calculators were being restored, and workshops were turning out brass gears by the thousands. The future of humanity would be written not in quantum states, but in oil, steam, and steel. The war for survival was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapons would be the technologies everyone else had left behind. The quantum plague. The massive halls of the Smithsonian's Air and Space Museum had been transformed into a military research facility, where tourists once marveled at relics of aviation history. Engineers now worked frantically to reverse engineer century-old technology. Captain Elena Rodriguez walked through the organized chaos, accompanied by Ambassador Exile and Dr. Mikhail Volkov, Earth's leading expert on mechanical computing. The first wave hit Alpha Centauri yesterday, Elena reported, studying a mechanical plotting table that tracked the entropy tide's advance using brass markers and physical maps. Their quantum-based civilization didn't last an hour, but we did get confirmation that our mechanical observation posts survived the initial contact. Mikhail ran his hands over an ancient difference engine, recently restored to working condition. Our friends from the Nexus Collective have helped us understand why. The tide exists as quantum-scale entities. They literally cannot perceive purely mechanical systems. It's like trying to read a book by analyzing individual atoms of paper. The crystalline growths on Kyle's body pulsed with a soft blue light. Your mechanical computers are inefficient by our standards, but they are invisible to the tide. We've already lost contact with our most advanced colonies. Only our most basic outposts remain. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Sarah Chen, now head of Earth's Mechanical Defense Initiative. The first prototype is ready, she announced, leading them to a massive hangar. Inside stood what looked like a steam locomotive merged with a spacecraft. All brass, steel, and iron, with massive pistons and intricate gearworks exposed. "The HSS Newcomen," Sarah said proudly. "Humanity's first steam-powered starship. No quantum computers, no nuclear power, not even basic electronics. Pure mechanical engineering, driven by solar-heated steam and clockwork navigation systems." Elena studied the vessel with a mixture of awe and skepticism. "Can it actually reach space?" "Already has," Sarah replied. "We launched her yesterday using a modified mass driver. Chemical rockets for initial boost, then solar thermal propulsion once in space. She's slow compared to our quantum ships, but she's completely invisible to the tide." Mikhail pointed to a series of mechanical displays in the ship's bridge. "The navigation system uses physical orreries and mechanical calculators. We've had to reinvent celestial navigation for three-dimensional space travel. The Newcomen can plot her course using nothing but gears and springs." A young engineer rushed into the hangar, clutching a brass message tube. "Captain, message from the lunar observation post. The tide. They're adapting. They'd started consuming normal matter in addition to quantum states." Eil's crystalline features shifted in what Elena had learned to recognize as alarm. "This is unprecedented. They've never shown this capability before. Show me, Elena demanded. The engineer quickly slotted the message tube into a nearby pneumatic reader, which unfurled a paper tape covered in mechanical printer output. The data was clear. The tide was evolving, learning to break down normal matter into its quantum components before consuming it. They're getting desperate, Mikhail observed, like a predator changing its hunting patterns when its usual prey becomes scarce. Elena turned to Sarah. How many ships like the Newcomen can we build in 4 months? With global industrial mobilization, maybe 50. We're already converting shipyards and factories back to mechanical production methods. The Chinese have reopened their steam engine plants, and the Russians are retooling their entire aerospace industry. It won't be enough, Exile stated grimly. Not against their numbers. But perhaps we don't need to match them in scale. The ambassador's crystals pulsed rapidly as an idea formed. Your mechanical systems are invisible to them, yes. But what if we made them more than invisible? What if we made them actively disruptive to quantum states? Mikhail's eyes widened as he grasped the concept, like introducing random mechanical vibrations into their quantum field. They exist as organized quantum patterns. If we could create enough mechanical chaos, we could break their coherence. Sarah finished. Disrupt their ability to maintain stable forms. We'd need to generate massive mechanical interference patterns. Elena watched as the scientists quickly lost themselves in technical discussions, their excitement growing as they refined the concept. This was what humanity did best, taking old ideas and finding new ways to use them, combining simple principles to solve impossible problems. How quickly can you modify the Newcomen's design to incorporate this disruption system? She asked. Sarah consulted her mechanical calculator, brass gears clicking as she ran the numbers. 3 weeks for the prototype, maybe 2 months to refit the entire plant fleet. We'll need to design new mechanical oscillators, harmonic resonators. Do it, Elena ordered. And send word to every Earth government. We need every factory, every workshop, every skilled machinist. It's time to show the galaxy that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As she left the hangar, Elena caught a glimpse of her reflection in the Newcomen's polished brass hull. Humanity had spent centuries pushing forward, always seeking the next technological breakthrough. Now their salvation lay in looking backward, in remembering what they'd left behind. The entropy tide was coming, expecting to find another civilization dependent on quantum technology. Instead, they would face an armada of steam and steel, guided by gears and springs, powered by the most fundamental forces of physics. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their advanced technology. It was their ability to adapt, to improvise, and to find power in the most unexpected places. Operation Retrograde. The bridge of the HSS Newcomen hummed with the sound of turning gears and hissing steam as Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the mechanical star chart. 40 ships of Earth's steam fleet held position near Mars, their brass and iron hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each vessel represented a triumph of retrofuturism. Mechanical computers plotting courses through space, steam-powered engines driving massive propulsion systems, and intricate clockwork mechanisms controlling every function. Status report, Elena commanded, watching as her bridge crew worked their mechanical stations. No electronic displays here, just brass gauges, mechanical readouts, and paper plotting charts. Enemy force approaching at quantum speed, reported Lieutenant James Chen, his eyes fixed on an array of mechanical sensors. The tide will reach our position in 17 minutes. Ambassador Exile stood beside Elena, crystal formations pulsing with nervous energy. They've never encountered resistance like this. Your fleet is completely invisible to their quantum senses. They'll be blind until they're right on top of us. Dr. Mikhail Volkov's voice crackled through a speaking tube from the engineering section. Mechanical disruptors are primed and ready. Remember, we only get one chance at this. If the harmonic resonance pattern doesn't work. It'll work, Elena interrupted. She'd stake her life on the brilliant minds who had designed these ships. The mechanical oscillators were masterpieces of engineering, designed to create interference patterns that would disrupt the quantum coherence the tide relied upon. The fleet's formation was arranged like an ancient naval battle line, a strategy pulled from history books gathering dust until now. Each ship's position had been calculated using mechanical computers that worked through pure mathematical principles, immune to quantum interference. First visual contact, James announced. Through the reinforced glass viewport, Elena watched as space itself seemed to darken. Stars winked out one by one as the quantum void approached. The tide moved like a wave of absolute darkness, consuming light and energy in its path. All ships, commence Operation Retrograde, Elena ordered. Her words were relayed through a network of mechanical signal flags and light beacons, no radio communications that the enemy could detect or disrupt. The steam fleet's engines roared to life, pistons pumping and gears turning, as they began their carefully choreographed dance. Ships moved in precise patterns, their mechanical oscillators creating overlapping waves of disruption in the quantum field. They're reacting, James called out. The tide. They're trying to adapt, but they can't lock onto our ships. The mechanical signatures are confusing them. Elena watched as the darkness reached their position. This was the moment of truth. Either their mechanical disruption would work, or humanity would join the growing list of civilizations consumed by the tide. The first wave hit the Newcomen like a physical force. Every quantum-based sensor went dark, but the mechanical systems continued functioning perfectly. Through the viewport, Elena watched in amazement as the darkness seemed to fragment and scatter where it encountered their disruption field. It's working. Mikhail's excited voice echoed through the speaking tube. The mechanical oscillations are breaking down their quantum coherence. They can't maintain stable forms in our disruption field. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. The steam fleet moved in complex patterns, their mechanical oscillators creating a web of disruption that the tide couldn't penetrate. Where the darkness touched their fields, it shattered into countless fragments, unable to maintain the coherence it needed to consume matter and energy. Multiple hostile entities destabilizing, James reported, reading from a mechanical detection array. They're retreating. The tide is actually falling back. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Elena kept her focus on the tactical situation. Pursuit course, she ordered. Let's show them that humanity isn't just going to defend. We're taking the fight to them. The steam fleet surged forward, their mechanical engines driving them through space in perfect formation. The retreating tide fragments tried to regroup, but each time they began to coalesce, the fleet's disruption fields would break them apart again. Ambassador Exile's crystals pulsed with unprecedented brightness. In all our battles, we never managed to force them to retreat. Your mechanical technology. It's not just a defense. It's the first effective weapon we've ever found against them. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The simplest solutions are often the best ones. Sometimes you have to go backward to move forward. As the fleet continued its pursuit, Elena received reports from observation posts throughout the solar system. The quantum void was dissipating, breaking down under the assault of humanity's mechanical disruption fields. For the first time since they'd emerged from the spaces between galaxies, the entropy tide had been forced to abandon its prey. Send word to Earth, Elena ordered. Operation Retrograde was a success, and tell them to accelerate production of the new fleet. We're not going to stop at defending our solar system. We're going to take back every inch of space these things have stolen. The battle had been won, but Elena knew this was just the beginning. The tide would adapt, would try to find ways around their mechanical defenses. But humanity would adapt too. They'd spend centuries pushing forward, always chasing the next breakthrough. Now they were rediscovering the power of their past, finding strength in the technologies they'd thought obsolete. The stars were going dark across the galaxy, but humanity had lit a spark of hope. Not with quantum computers or advanced energy weapons, but with steam, steel, and the timeless principles of mechanical engineering. The age of brass and iron had returned, and the universe would never be the same. The Clockwork Fleet, Earth's orbital shipyards, had been transformed. Where once sleek quantum ships took shape in sterile assembly bays, now massive mechanical vessels grew like iron flowers. Steam billowed from testing stations, and the rhythmic sound of thousands of hammers created a constant symphony of industry. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, newly promoted after the success of Operation Retrograde, stood in the command center of Orbital Station Tesla, watching the construction through brass telescopes. The HSS Newcomen, veteran of humanity's first victory, floated nearby, undergoing upgrades to its disruption systems. Production has exceeded all projections, Dr. Sarah Chen reported, consulting a mechanical calculator. 200 vessels completed, another 300 under construction. The Chinese-Russian cooperative has perfected a new steam drive that doubles our effective range. The other species are beginning to notice, Ambassador Exile added. Their crystalline form had changed over the months, adapting to interface with human mechanical systems. 3 more civilizations have requested our aid. They've begun dismantling their quantum technology, returning to mechanical systems. Elena studied the tactical plots showing the tide's movements. After their defeat in the solar system, they'd withdrawn to regroup, but reports indicated they were evolving new strategies. How long until the combined fleet is ready? The Centaurian ships will arrive next week, Sarah answered. Their designs are interesting. They've merged our steam technology with their crystalline engineering. The Proximan forces are still converting their vessels, but they'll be ready within the month. The alliance had grown rapidly after word of humanity's victory spread. Species that had hidden from the tide, watching their more advanced neighbors fall, now saw hope in Earth's primitive technology. The greatest engineers of a dozen worlds were collaborating, combining their knowledge with humanity's mechanical expertise. Admiral, a young officer rushed in, carrying a brass message cylinder. Priority signal from the Alpha Centauri outpost. The tide. They've developed some kind of quantum mechanical hybrid form. They're attacking in force. Elena quickly read the message, her expression grim. They're trying to bridge the gap between quantum and physical states. Alert all commands. Operation Clockwork begins now. We move with what we have. Within hours, the greatest fleet ever assembled by human hands departed Earth orbit. 200 vessels of brass and iron, accompanied by ships from their alien allies, each one a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. They traveled without quantum drives or electronic guidance, navigating by the stars themselves, powered by steam and solar heat. The battle that awaited them at Alpha Centauri would determine the fate of not just humanity, but of all species who dared to resist the tide. Elena stood on the Newcomen's bridge, watching her crews work their mechanical stations with practiced precision. They had gone backward to move forward, and now the future itself hung in the balance. The tide had evolved, but so had humanity. They had taken the lessons of their first victory and built upon them, creating weapons that combined the best of old and new technology. Their fleet moved like a great clockwork machine, each ship a gear in a vast mechanism designed to tear reality itself from the enemy's grasp. As they approached the battlefield, Elena remembered something her grandfather, an old watchmaker, once told her. The most reliable machines are the ones you can see working. Looking at her fleet's gleaming brass and iron ships, she knew humanity had rediscovered that ancient wisdom just in time. The stars ahead began to dim as the tide approached, but this time, humanity wasn't defending. They were taking the fight to the enemy, armed with the weight of history itself. The age of quantum technology had met its match in steam and steel, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity never truly abandoned its old ways. The Clockwork Fleet moved into attack formation, pistons pumping, gears turning, and mechanical disruption fields already beginning to resonate through space. The final battle for the future would be fought with the technologies of the past, and humanity was ready to show the universe why sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Symphony of gears. The void between Alpha Centauri's twin stars became a battlefield unlike any in human history. Admiral Elena Rodriguez watched from the Newcomen's Bridge as the combined fleet engaged the evolved entropy tide. The enemy had adapted, developing hybrid forms that could interact with physical matter, but humanity had prepared for this. Multiple contact points. Lieutenant Chen reported from his mechanical sensor station. The tide is attempting to penetrate our disruption fields with their new forms. Execute Pattern Omega, Elena commanded. The fleet responded as one massive machine, hundreds of ships moving in precisely calculated formations. Their mechanical oscillators created overlapping waves of disruption that rippled through space itself. The tide's hybrid forms twisted and fragmented where they met the disruption fields, but they kept coming. They had learned from their previous defeat, attempting to overwhelm the fleet's defenses through sheer numbers. Engineering reports ready. Dr. Volkov's voice echoed through the speaking tubes. The resonance amplifiers are charged. Elena gave the order they'd been waiting for. All ships initiate the symphony. Across the fleet, massive mechanical engines began to move in perfect synchronization. Each ship's oscillators adjusted to a specific frequency, creating a harmonious pattern of disruption that grew stronger as more vessels joined in. The combined effect was like a great mechanical symphony, each ship and instrument playing its part in a song that could tear apart the fabric of quantum reality. The tide reacted violently to this new assault. Their hybrid forms began to break down, unable to maintain coherence in the face of such perfectly orchestrated mechanical chaos. But they didn't retreat. Instead, they gathered into a massive concentration of darkness that threatened to engulf the fleet. They're attempting to form a quantum singularity. Ambassador Exidal warned, their crystals pulsing with alarm. If they succeed, they could tear a hole in space-time itself. Elena had anticipated this. Execute final movement, she ordered. The fleet's formation shifted again, creating a spherical pattern around the growing singularity. Every ship's mechanical oscillators turned inward, focusing their disruption fields on a single point. The battle reached its crescendo as hundreds of vessels, representing a dozen species and combining technologies spanning centuries of development, worked in perfect harmony. The mechanical symphony reached a pitch that made reality itself vibrate in sympathy. At the center of their formation, the tide's attempted singularity began to collapse. The perfectly tuned mechanical vibrations disrupted the quantum patterns that gave the entities their existence, breaking them down to their most basic components. It's working. Sarah Chen called out, reading from her mechanical sensors. Their quantum coherence is failing completely. They can't maintain their forms. Elena watched as the darkness at the heart of their formation began to dissolve. The tide, which had consumed entire galaxies and brought the most advanced civilizations to their knees, was being undone by the simple, reliable principles of mechanical engineering. The victory that followed wasn't just humanity's. It belonged to every species that had dared to look backward to move forward. The combined fleet had proved that the most advanced solution wasn't always the best one. In the years that followed, the galaxy entered a new age. The quantum technology that had once dominated civilization was balanced with mechanical systems, creating a hybrid approach that offered both advancement and security. Earth became a center of learning as species from across space came to study the engineering principles that had saved their civilizations. Elena stood at her old observation post one last time, watching ships of brass and iron patrol the stars alongside their more advanced cousins. Humanity had reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. That progress wasn't always about moving forward. Sometimes the best way to face the future was to remember the lessons of the past. The stars shone brightly again, no longer threatened by the darkness between them. In the end, it hadn't been advanced quantum computers or sophisticated energy weapons that had saved them. It had been steam, steel, and the timeless principles of mechanical engineering. Humanity had fought back with the technologies everyone else had abandoned, and in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history. The symphony of gears had played its final note, but its echoes would resonate through the cosmos forever.